Are you wondering if the keto health is for you? Well, in my previous videos, I have talked about the keto diet and how it was created about 100 years ago to help epileptics to reduce the incidences of their seizures. And in fact, it was shown to be beneficial. And there are certain other physiological disorders up in the brain that can also be treated with the same kind of diet. And there are several different kinds now. I reviewed that in one of my previous videos on keto diets, but it was never made for weight loss. Now, some people have claimed there's no longitudinal information about the long-term effects of that diet, and that is kind of true. However, there was a study that was done where they tracked down people who had been in the studies that used the keto diet for epileptics, and they checked with them about the results. Now, some of these people had stopped using the diet immediately after the study. Some people had continued for a number of years and then stopped, and some people were still eating the keto diet. And for those people specifically, yes, it did have a positive impact on the problem of their seizures. It was a reduced rate of epileptic seizures. But again, that's about epileptic seizures. That is not about weight loss. So enter the picture Virta Health. Virta Health has been touting itself as the first company with a keto diet that is proven to reverse diabetes. However, you have to look at the tiny writing, because in the tiny writing, you'll discover there's more information. Or all you have to do is look at the studies that were funded by Virta Health and certain industries like the pharmacy industry and the food industry and so on and so forth. And in those studies, they discovered that while there are a percentage of people who will long-term reverse their diabetes and will benefit long-term being on the keto diet, and there are people out there that do fit that category. I've communicated with someone here on YouTube. However, the majority of people within 6 months to 2 years experience a reversal back into diabetes. Now, it may not be as bad as when they started, but it does turn around. So what happens is, initially, there are markers associated with diabetes, with blood pressure, and a lot of other markers about health become better on the keto diet. And then suddenly, and slowly, I should say, not suddenly really, but slowly, it does a U-turn. And many of these markers, if not all, start going backwards in the direction they were, toward the direction they were initially. In other words, with the exception of the people that were on the far end of the spectrum, most people will only benefit from the keto diet on a short-term basis, maximum 2 years. So if you decide to go on the keto diet, and I would consult a doctor first, you need to have regular supervision. In fact, the original keto diet work with the seizures was done under regular doctor, if not constant, doctoral and scientific supervision to make sure that their health was not being destroyed. And people who could not tolerate the keto diet were taken off of it, and they had to figure out some other solution for them. So, is the keto diet good? For a percentage of people, a minority of people, yes. And for other people, short term, yes. But you have to be supervised by a doctor, because as soon as your markers start going back in the direction of prediabetes or diabetes, you have to get off the keto diet and into a more healthful diet that works long term. Now, I know that some of you are out there, you're saying, but I heard high-fat diets are good for you. Again, there is a small percentage of people for whom a high-fat diet and a low-carb diet will work long term. But it's a minority of people. Just like for carnivore diets, a minority of people will work. There are a minority of people who cannot be vegans for various reasons. One of them is the alpha-gal syndrome, which is transmitted by the Texas Lone Star tick. Or maybe it's just the Lone Star tick. There are a minority of people who have to have animal products in their food because they can't produce carnitine or they can't produce cholesterol, for example. So, however, there are a huge number of studies that support that vegetarianism and veganism, with certain caveats for the veganism, because you have to supplement certain things, are good for the majority of people. Now, does that mean you have to go to veganism? No. Just like keto diet, veganism is more challenging. And if you don't have a strong mind, a willpower, if you don't have the right mindset where you can change the way you look at food rapidly, you should ease your way in that direction and see if you can get to being a vegan. And if not, just do the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet or something like that. But there are millions of people, the Seventh-day Adventists, for example, and people in certain other areas, especially in many parts of Asia, especially historically, who were constantly eating only or almost exclusively plant matter, and were very much avoiding all or most of the diseases that are very commonplace here in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, in Australia, in New Zealand, and now in countries like Indonesia that have gone way overboard on meat consumption from historically maybe 80 years ago, or no, maybe not even 80 years ago. Back in the 1940s and 1950s, the majority of Indonesians would get meat maybe once or twice a month. That's it. And they had historically longer lifespans. Now, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law died a bit on the premature side, especially my father-in-law. And they were fairly wealthy. They were eating a wealthy diet, a lot of bad foods, and that had a negative impact on their health. He died, I believe it was a stroke, although there was no autopsy, but he had already had a stroke, and he had hypertension, and he had diabetes. So most likely it was a stroke. But yeah, anyways, so yes, you may have heard high-fat, low-carb diets work. They do work for a small portion of people. They don't work for most people long-term. High-carb diets, on the contrary, if you're doing it right, it can be good for your health. Now, one of the things that's universal with diets is a diet that is composed of one product, for example, the cabbage diet, or blend juice that is extracted from the flesh, and you only drink the juice, are not good for your health long term. Now, maybe short term you'll see some benefits, but long term you will ruin your health on those diets. Okay, and so the other thing that's important is, so a monoproduct diet, effectively, which is, in the case of the juice diet, it's a processed diet where you've lost all the pulp that has minerals and vitamins and fiber in it. Is, those are going to be bad for you, but also processed foods. Look, I know it's a pain in the butt to take the time out to go ahead and cook your meals and stuff like that, have a whole food diet, plant-based or not. However, there is absolutely no way to argue that it is not good for your health, because there's overwhelming amounts of evidence from millions and millions of people that demonstrate that this kind of diet, whole food, plant-based especially, is going to be the best diet for most people. But again, this is about the keto diet. So again, the Virta Health studies have proven that only a minority of people can benefit after about 6 months to 2 years from the keto diet. So keep a close tab on your health, and have your doctor check your markers to make sure you're not going backwards. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.